All right. And we are live. So thank you for joining me tonight, ladies and gentlemen. Um, this is I wrote January here. I was rushing a little bit. It is, in fact, February. It is almost the end of February. I do not know how that managed to happen, but pretend that says February. This is our February listening club. Um, Before we get started on our discussion, I'm going to do my standard spiel here. So, this is our music listening club, which we have monthly. We have another monthly club, which is our movie club, which we are watching Spider Man Into the Spider Verse. And that discussion will be happening on Friday. And I don't know what day of the week it is. Well, it's Friday, but the 27th, I think.
Yes.
Yeah, thank you. And then we also have a quarterly book club, which we will not be discussing until the end of April. So you have plenty of time to catch up on Station 11. And I'll be announcing the next picks on the 1st, which is going to be Sunday. So let me know if you'd like to join us on the call for those discussions. If you can't join us on the calls live, I do limit the amount of people that are on here just for manageability. But you can comment on it on YouTube live and we'll see it live, or you can comment after the fact and I can just talk to you about media. I started these clubs because I like talking about things. So yeah, let me know. And you can always find any of our older picks or just other things that aren't these media clubs over on our Facebook page, which if Beckett would be so kind as to put on the screen for me. It will appear at the bottom of the screen. We have a lot of really fun things that are going on around there. So definitely join us over there and check it out. We also have a Patreon, which we are working on adding in a bunch of new fun things to it. But right now, everything that we offer is free and available for our members. And that includes like our meetups and our weekly calls, our catch up, our writers group. There's a lot of stuff going on. But you can support us for as little as $2 a month if you just want to help us out and help us keep this train a moving. I think that was everything. So let's talk about the XX. XX. I feel like it's not quite because the band's name is The XX, but the album is XX, so it's not quite a band title. Just very close. Had you guys listened to this album before?
It was the first time for me.
I hadn't listened to it in its entirety, but I've heard a lot of these songs.
Tim, you're muted.
Spacebar's not working. Okay. I didn't know this band existed until you picked this record. So,
all right. Did you like it?
I'm very surprised that I did. But I think for me, I need to be in a mood to listen to this kind of music. And I listened to it on the way home from work tonight, and I was very much in the mood that was appropriate for this album.
Okay. What about you, Jason?
Yeah, I enjoyed it a lot. It's very good. It cultivates a lot of like what's the word? Subconscious emotion. A lot of like floating dreamlike state, mix of sometimes it feels like a little bit of sadness, sometimes it feels like a little bit of joy, but it sort of floats around. I really enjoyed that aspect of the music. But yeah.
And Beckett?
Oh yeah. I mean, I've loved them for a long time. I have a lot of these songs bookmarked for like aerial stuff because they have good steady beats and good bass lines. So
I was very excited to pick this album because I am a huge fan of it. I was listening to it on a plane when I was going back to visit my parents. And and it was the perfect thing to be listening to with like noise canceling headphones while zoning out on a plane. And I think it's one of those albums that definitely needs to be listened to while you're like staring up at a ceiling. It's simultaneously very sparse and very intimate. But I am a huge fan of this album. I have been a fan of this album since its release back in 2009. But I always got to ask, did you have a song that stood out to you guys?
I love Islands and Infinity. Those are my favorites.
For me, honestly, a lot of the songs sounded kind of similar, but it wasn't like a negative experience. It was just kind of like I enjoyed them. There's a lot of back and forth between the two singers, songs about love with the radiating electronica. I mean, if I listened to this album more, I'm sure I'd find the differences, but it kind of felt like a vibe that they tapped into a lot. So that was my kind of, but they were all good though.
The intro really caught my attention, and I would have to listen to it more to differentiate between the songs. But Islands, when it started playing, I immediately looked at my phone to see what it was. There was something about that caught my ear. And the other thing that I think that I loved, I think it was the vocal arrangement on Fantasy. There was something about that, the way they sing together, and just the ethereal nature of the song. A lot of this feels like, I don't know, it reminded me, I hear a lot of 80s like synth pop in their sound, but I also heard a distinct Portishead kind of feel to them. There's something very ambient influenced about them that's very similar in that way to trip hop. Yeah.
I think I'm a huge fan of sparse albums in general. So this album was interesting. They recorded it as a bunch of demos to present to record labels, and then didn't like the songs fully produced and imitated their demos, which were basically just like the three of them.
What's your favorite song?
My favorite song has always been Islands.
Well, that makes me feel good that everybody likes it. That was the one song that really stood out for me, and that everybody likes it. I picked the right tune for once.
It was one of their singles from the album, but I have strong memories of Islands, and I have strong memories of Crystallized being played on the radios. But Islands is the song that always, and when I think about this album, that's the song I think about.
Yeah, I do love Intro too. I think it's a little short. I would like it to be longer. But that one and Crystallized were kind of my introduction to the XX.
I wanted to ask if like the two vocalists kind of having a discussion for every song, did that change your perception of the songs themselves? Did it change it more from like a song to like a story being told between two people, or did you just see it as two singers?
I don't really pay attention to the lyrics or the conversation that they're having. Like, I kind of like to listen to this album as like ambient almost. Like the vocals are just part of the ambient like track to me.
For me, the lyrics helped a lot with my enjoyment because it sort of added an extra layer. Like the music's good, but also I'm following the narrative of the back and forth, and a lot of how the two singers had similar emotions, which I think is kind of unique for a call and response sort of thing. It wasn't a plot-based antagonistic thing or something like that. It was a very meditative sort of use of the lyrics. So I really liked the dialogic nature of it. But yeah.
Yeah, MPM Films on YouTube says that Intro was their introduction to the XX.
Yeah, Intro's great. I I had the strongest experience with intro because my brain was kind of like, oh, this is kind of like an interesting arrangement, and the melody keeps changing. So I was trying to like solve what the theme was. I think once the lyrics came in on the other songs, I was kind of a little more, oh, I get what they're going for. But there was a lot of solving with the intro, which I really enjoyed on an intellectual level. It's very, very oddly thought provoking for a, basically classical piece of music. But
Oh, it's Randall. Hi, Randall. What was the production of this album like? You said that it was basically just them and their instruments. Was it literally just like a guitar, a singer, and drums?
So let me pull up my personnel screen. There were only 4 people, and then I believe Baria Qureshi actually left after this album, and they went down to just being a trio. But it is essentially just the vocals, guitar, bass, and then synth.
Interesting. It never occurred to me that it was a quartet. I heard what I was hearing. I assumed it was a trio. So that's interesting.
Yeah, it was a quartet on the recording, and then I think when they started touring, they went down to a trio.
I definitely thought it was one of those bands where it was one person with a synthesizer doing rearrangements and imitating other instruments, because it sounded very synth heavy and very one direction in the sound. I guess that's kind of in the mix, I guess. And also listening to on Spotify on my phone is probably modifying the mix more than necessary. But,
yeah, I was wondering that while I was listening to it, because I kind of treat this as an ambient album, but I can't tell where the synths are. Like, I knew there was a guitar in there, but the synth is the drums mostly.
Yeah, so it's using an MPC, which is a MIDI unit. I think it actually stands for MIDI production unit. That's mainly used for like sampling. So even though like the drums are electronic, I assume that they were sampled. And in fact, I find that a bunch of LinnDrum that they have the basis in is also pretty sample oriented. So a very organic sound in a very electronic beat.
Interesting.
I want to sit with the lyrics. I was able to catch some of them. I was driving, obviously, when I was listening to it, but what I heard sounded interesting. But it's definitely, I think one of you, I think it was you, Rebecca, who said, or it was, I don't know, it was one of you guys who said you need to be staring at the ceiling. My alternative was, this sounds like something that I would get together with 3 or 4 friends, and we'd light up a joint, and we'd have beer or wine or something, and we'd just sit around and we'd just be tripping on, the recording. It took me back to my teen years.
I both agree with that and fully disagree with that, because this album is too introspective for me.
Yeah.
To like be hanging out with people with.
I have to say, as a sober person, I tripped just fine on my own. But yes, I understand the sentiment. But yes.
Which actually, I think this is more for Jason than anyone else, because I also listened to the lyrics of it. But this album's so weird to me because it feels very connected and very distant. And the lyrics kind of play on that line. Like, I feel like it could be taken either direction at any point in time. It's so vague.
Yeah. And like the emotive content of the singing, I feel like it's like intentionally flatter than you would expect for a love song or whatever you want to call it. So it's like, as a listener, you're always kind of like not sure what you're imagining. Is this a romantic relationship? Is this some kind of self-parody? It's playing with a lot of different things in its presentation.
I think the style of the music actually kind of plays a lot with the album cover kind of being this minimal, like monochromatic, stark thing that's like very obvious and very in your face, but also very sparse and not there, and can be just taken many different directions.
Yeah, I was curious, since you guys are bigger fans of this band, is there a story behind the name? Because when I heard XX, I thought of like a cartoon with one when they're dead, they get the two X's in their eyes. Is that what they're going for, or do you have is there a story behind that, or?
So the band members all have birthdays around the same time frame, and they all turned 20 when they created this. So XX is in reference to them being 20 years old.
Gosh, that's so young.
Yeah, so much more accomplished than I was now.
Really.
Well, I'm 20. Yeah.
What label was this released on?
So this, I wish I took a photo of it and put it on here. This was released by XL, which I think this was their first album that they did. I want to say that the studio was put together specifically for them. It was on the label Young Turks, which was also pretty young at this time frame. They are like, they do independent, a lot of things. I think they do FKA Twigs as well. So this is kind of their vibe. But I wanted to talk about the studio where it was recorded because it was specifically set up for them, and it has a huge X on the side of it.
Listening to it, I presumed it was a home studio production.
Yeah, like I said, they didn't like it when they started producing it out, so they went back and kind of did their demos, and I assume their demos were like garage demos because the studio they recorded in didn't exist when they were writing the songs. But I think it was specifically designed to sound like the demos that were recorded in the garage, just, a little better. Very clear production.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it was very, very solid, seamless production. I didn't find any flaws in it or anything. Yeah.
So Tim, when I picked this album, what were you expecting?
I had no fucking idea what to expect. No idea. I thought it was going to be like some kind of alt rock, indie rock, pop kind of thing. I was not expecting this very introspective, ambient, ethereal kind of sound at all. And I certainly wasn't expecting anything that sounded like 80s synth pop.
Do you think you'll listen to some more of their albums?
I think I will. I don't know about some more of their albums, but I definitely want to dive into this one deeper and just kind of, put the headphones on, stare up at the ceiling, and just kind of pay attention to the lyrics, because I did, this kind of album I really need to sit with before I can get the lyrical content. I think the way I heard it is the way Beckett hears it, as just this kind of ambient album, and I hear the sounds and the tones of the voices, but the lyrical content I really, really have to concentrate on to break it out from the music itself.
I would recommend their follow-up album to this, Coexist. I am also a huge fan of that album. I am not quite as familiar with their third album. They only have 3. And then they all went off to do their own things. So if I go back to their listing, trying to remember facts off the top of my head. Jamie Smith went on to be Jamie XX, and he's probably the most famous of the group. He went on and does solo projects under Jamie XX, which are a lot more electronic heavy and not as sparse. And I think Croft has her own indie band.
That wouldn't surprise me. She's very strong as a singer and as a songwriter and as a player too. I immediately detected that she was kind of the lead of the band. It was just something about the way she commanded every song, even with the other vocalist.
Yeah, I think she's definitely the A to the I guess it's Oliver's B on the songs. Like it's sort of like she's the melody. He's the counter melody kind of in the vocals, kind of.
Yeah. If she wasn't there, I would think it was a completely different band. But as long as she's there, it doesn't matter who else is there, is the sense that I got listening to this.
I kind of always get the vibe that Oliver Sims is like the background vocalist.
Hmm. Which is weird because it's still a key part of the song is that, you know, it's this sort of thing
Yeah,
about
this
being together or whatever, or yeah.
right, like this discussion with it. Yet I always remember her voice,
Yeah.
and I don't think about his quite as much. So I think I agree with you 100%. I think that the XX could maintain itself and its vibe if it was just Rami and Jamie XX.
Hmm.
I think he does most of the background in the instrumentalists.
Hmm.
And I think, I know that they both write the lyrics for it, but I feel like she is a much stronger vocalist. And I feel like it wouldn't change much of my opinion of the band.
I love that there are no solos either. There's no guitar solos, no keyboard solos. It's just the vocals carry the entire song. And you know, I do like all of when the two, having us have a completely different sounding vocalist really helped maintain my interest in the tunes.
To
You know,
break
it
it up
always,
for you.
yeah, when they switched off, it always, you know, if I was losing my attention on the song, the change in vocalist would immediately bring me back to it because they're such radically different sounding voices.
Here's an interesting question that I think I have. Do you feel like this album ends?
No, in fact, Spotify started playing another album by them after it ended, and I didn't notice. So that's kind of a direct scientific indication as far as I'm concerned. Not in a bad way, but it sort of was like, oh, more songs by them, and then it was like, oh, it's a different album. But yeah,
I feel like this album doesn't resolve itself. Like it kind of ends, and every time I'm like, what?
yeah, because there's no denouement in the structure of like this. All this, well, let's go back to my thesis or first impression that the song kind of feels similar if I describe them to someone. So it's kind of like they didn't. I guess to your point of like recording the demos, it's kind of like a more of a mixtape or a setup than like an arranged album with like a beginning, middle, end. But yeah.
It's interesting to me because this does feel like an album that kind of like moves from each song into the next one and does feel like a conversation over the course of a relationship. I'm pretty sure the songs aren't related to one another. Like it's not a concept album.
Right.
So it's really interesting that this album always surprises me when it ends in the way that it does, just because there shouldn't be an end to it. It's not a concept album. I'm not watching a story.
Yeah, and it's a pretty short track list, isn't it? How many songs are on here?
11.
And they're all short.
Yeah.
And actually, I think there's only like 9 on the standard one.
It's interesting because if you read the titles literally, it kind of sounds like it's crescendoing because you end on infinity, nighttime, stars. So it's kind of like day becoming night, and also the scale growing, but the sound of it doesn't really match that, forced implication I'm giving it.
I also think it's interesting that they front loaded it with their singles.
Yeah, I feel like that can be standard and depending on the artist, but yeah.
You know, it almost seems to me, and I don't mean this in the bad way that it might sound, but the album is kind of flat in terms of mood, and I think that's what makes you feel when the album ends that it doesn't really end; it just kind of keeps going. It's part of that. It's part of that. That's kind of part of its ambient identity. I think that flatness of the tunes.
Yeah, for it being a discussion, like nobody's voices get raised at any point in time.
Yeah.
And no one wins the implied argument or something. I don't know. But
it's more of a discussion than anything else.
Yeah.
I think
no emotions, and yet somehow all the emotions. I think that's why I can imprint on this album so easily.
Mm-hmm.
is it is the millennial gray. You can put anything on it, but it's not boring.
I think because I had a long day and I was tired, I think what appreciated me and drew me into it was that there was nobody yelling. Everything was just it's a very quiet album, it seems to me. Despite the heaviness of some of the beats on some of the tracks, it still feels like a very quiet album, which is why it just kind of sucked me in listening to it today.
Yeah, it is kind of quiet. I think that lends it to that intimate feeling that Rebecca was talking about.
Sorry, I write notes and then I have to go through all my notes, and usually I have 2 screens, so now I'm like going back and forth between 2 things. I, for the first time, actually wrote down information about the lyrics. Usually I don't write down information about the lyrics, and I did on this one. But now the only person I can talk to about it is Jason.
Good night, everyone else.
Well, tell us anyway.
It's mostly, I think that we have been talking about it a lot, of just how this album like kind of walks a line in a really weird way. It is somehow very fragile and very restrained. And I wrote down some of the lyrics because I think it's interesting how they're monotonous, and yet they say things like, "You applied the pressure to have me crystallized." Implies something very hard.
Yeah.
It feels manipulative, and yet there's no raised emotions whatsoever in it.
Yeah, you could read that as resignation, but I mean, I guess but
Yeah.
I think it's intentionally left open to interpretation to a certain extent. But yeah.
A lot of this album, when I read the lyrics, kind of feels really abusive to me.
Yeah, the music's kind of joyful in a melodic way, but it's definitely melancholic. I feel like it uses a lot of bass, like, leans towards a bassy sound, a lower sound. So it's an interesting mix of the 2 emotions, which could be read as mixed feelings or melancholy.
Which also plays really well against her voice. This juxtaposition of 2 things.
She reminds me a little bit of Billie Eilish.
The same kind of space, the same kind of like breathy voice.
Yes.
Also the same kind of almost monotony in the tone.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Billie Eilish is a little more on the biting sarcasm, but at the same time, you can sort of make comparisons depending on the different levels, but similar idea. Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like Billie Eilish sings with a little bit more emotion.
I always got the impression from Billie Eilish that she's someone that you don't want to mess with. And I get the feeling from this album of it is somebody that's just kind of like, all right, I'm over this. Kind of like has given up sort of vibe.
Definitely more relatable. Like the lyrics aren't written to be a clever hook or like, just so it's like it just feels more realistic as opposed to like a Billie Eilish or a traditional pop song. But yeah.
I remember hearing Crystallized on the radio, and looking back on it, I'm actually surprised by that.
For all of her biting nature in Billie Eilish, I hear a fragility in her voice. And I think that's what I identified as Eilish-like in this singer's
So we talked about that they were called the XX because they were 20. A lot of these songs were written when they were like 17 or 18.
Mm-hmm.
Does that change your opinion on them?
Actually, it gives me a lot of respect because when you presented this band to the group, I was thinking of like an emo band, and this band is like 10 times better than a whiny emo band, crying and staring at their shoes or whatever. I mean, so for 17, they're incredibly literate, and I would not, I wouldn't have thought that unless you had said that. So I'm very impressed. But yeah.
Let me see.
If they were being honest, they would have called themselves the XVI.
Doesn't
They
have the
would've-
same ring to it.
They have like a little paper thing. They flip the number over every year. Like now we're XXI.
Cole and Adele, where she just names her albums after the age she is.
Yeah.
Right.
Is that what Adele does? I don't know.
Yes.
I've never listened to Adele.
Yeah, all of her albums are named after the age she was when she recorded them.
Yep.
Because she writes them about her real life. I guess that's the implication. Yeah. Or at least her real emotions or something.
Does anyone have any? You know what? Let me throw a photo of these guys up. So
Oh, there you go.
How handsome.
Not what I expected at all.
I wonder
Which
when
one
yeah, fair.
Yeah.
I'm assuming
Yeah,
that's
I mean,
Romy on the end.
yes, and Jamie XX, I believe, is in the middle.
I want to investigate the lyrics more succinctly now, and kind of knowing where they were as far as like developmental stage as being teenagers when they wrote these songs. That kind of makes sense that they would be kind of like melancholic and moody and all that stuff.
Literate.
Yeah, I was gonna say like
These are all readers. These are people who read books.
moodiness done well is like the best art, in my opinion, because it captures the ennui of human existence. That nothing is truly happy, nothing is truly sad. It's just sort of like just okay and uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Oh,
I mean, I was
that
also a very angsty teenager, so
I think we all
relatable.
were. I think it's called being a teenager. So this is an
angsty
interesting thing that is interesting to me and probably no one else. But reading up on Jamie XX, whose solo music I do know, I think they all went to the Elliott School, which I don't know a lot about, but other alumni include the band Hot Shit and then two synth people that I'm huge fans of, Boreal and Fortet. And now I need to go research this school.
Where is this? This in England or America?
Yes, they are a British band. so,
Okay. I had no idea.
yeah, it's just weird that all of these electronic people from like the same time came out of the same place.
Well, and apparently they all grew up together, which
Yes.
makes sense. I'm just looking at Wikipedia, and Romy met Oliver when they were 3, and then she
Wow.
met Jamie when they were both 11.
That beats Lennon and McCartney by like 3 to 7 years. That's awesome. Wow.
Is she really short or is Oliver really tall?
I have no idea. I don't know. I'm sorry. I didn't do enough research.
Rebecca.
So it's not an art school.
It's just a
It
college.
It does have a strong tradition in visual and performing arts, but it's not like a performing high school. It just, for some reason, all these experimental electronic musicians came out of it.
God puts them together for a reason, I guess.
That was just a weird fact. Did you guys have any thoughts on the music or the album that you wanted to discuss?
Is there I keep referencing 80s synth pop, but is there a genre name for this particular set? Because I detect a heavy dose of trip hop in that sound they have.
So I think they technically classify as indie rock just for lack of putting them elsewhere.
Mhm.
But I think it goes into dream pop. If
I
you
was gonna
really
say that's the best word for it for me, because that was how I felt. It was very, like I said, subconscious. You feel something, you don't know why. That was how I approached the music. But yeah.
dream pop is what Spotify tells me I listen to most, and I don't exactly know how to characterize it. Like I don't know. It feels like a step above shoegaze. I don't know.
Yeah, atmosphere and sonic texture mixed with pop melody. I guess that's a pretty good
Yeah.
comparison to this album. Yeah.
I kind of wished, given intro at the beginning of the album, I was kind of hoping for one or two more instrumental tunes in between. It would have been nice to maybe bookend the entire album with an instrumental track. Because I really dug intro a lot.
Yeah, me too.
Like, I think it was Beckett who said she would, or Jay, but one of you said that you wished it was longer, and I was like, yeah, I did too.
Well, I think that also goes back into me not feeling like it ended.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like having that bookend at the end might change
like
my opinion of the music, or
Mhm.
Could be like the Beatles. We have Ringo Starr saying good night to the listener. I mean, make a really obvious ending. Yeah.
Yeah, it would have been nice to have a reprisal of intro at the end.
outro.
They could have called it, yeah, outro.
I do like that it starts with intro because it feels like it's prepping you for the album.
Mm-hmm.
Like
Mhm.
it's introducing you into this space that it's just you and them in.
Yeah.
Which
And
is why
agree.
I do think that it's an album that you listen to while staring up at the ceiling.
Mhm.
But yeah, and I also agree that I think it would have kind of helped to break up the monotony to have a couple more instrumentals in there somewhere. But I wasn't their producer, so.
Well, if you want more instrumental stuff and you want something a little bit more upbeat, you can always go check out Jamie XX's solo stuff. I haven't listened to Rami Croft's solo stuff. I guess she does release stuff under Rami.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know anything about that. I did not venture into that. I've never listened to her solo stuff, and I probably should.
Yes, it looks cool. I haven't tried it yet, but yeah.
I have exhausted my notes. Does anybody have anything else that they'd like to bring up?
No, you summarized all my thoughts on the album so thoroughly. I'm done.
Right. It's kind of a minimalist album and it's kind of short. So it's there's only so much to talk about.
This is also their debut. They were the first people at the label. They, other than apparently a connection to Fortet and Burial, which again is something that I think only relates to me. There's not a lot of connective thread from them at this time frame. They all went off to do their own solo stuff and produce other bands and do other things in the future. But for this, there's not a lot of history leading up to it. Which does make it incredibly impressive. I also did not realize they wrote these songs when they were 17. I did not have a handle on my emotions at 17.
Yeah, I definitely was in kind of a similar headspace writing songs and poetry and stuff, but didn't make it to the point of like, actually getting an album produced. That's pretty impressive.
Well, if nobody has anything else, then I think I can close out the stream for the night.
Yep.
I think we've talked about it all.
All right. Well, then, thank you guys for joining me, and thank you for listening to this album. It's one of my favorites. So
Thank you for picking it. That's something I ever would have listened to had you not picked it.
Exactly the same. Yeah.
That's what I go for.
Yeah, I was glad to listen to the whole thing all the way through.
Yeah, and definitely check out their next album, Coexist. And I'm
I
going to check
shall.
out Rami's solo stuff.
Yeah,
Yeah.
me too. Let's do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
All right. Thanks, guys.
Have a good night.